And we're back here on the Fowler Show, and we are just 2 weeks away from this election. And I got to tell you, folks, the most important thing about this election is everybody going to the polls, and beyond going to the polls, voting. But you know, here on the Fowler Show, we believe in supporting young folks running for office because, you know, I'm not that old. Come on, you guys know that. Anyway, talking about that, we're joined by a candidate, Uriah Ward, running for the North Carolina State Representative's 9th District. He is nominated, or he is a candidate for the Launch Progress PAC, and we're so happy to have him on the show. Welcome to the Fowler Show.
Hi, glad to be here.
Good. So tell me, how's the race going?
It's come along really well. You know, we announced last November, so it's been a really long campaign, but it's been an amazing experience. We've got a lot of momentum behind us. We've been endorsed by a lot of great groups, including Launch Progress. We were endorsed by the State Employees Association of North Carolina, as well as the North Carolina Association of Educators, as well as a lot of other local progressive groups. We have a really strong ground game. We have canvassing, phone banking every single day, and doing everything we can to get our message out. And it feels like this is one we're about to win.
I love it, and I think, you know, like, everybody's going to be looking to North Carolina on election night to see what happens. Obviously, the top of the ticket with Senator Kay Hagan in her sort of race against Tom Tillis. But tell me, what is it? What is the one thing you're hearing from the voters in the 9th District of North Carolina, in their state representative district, that is? Right.
Well, the number one issue that you hear across the state, and especially in Pitt County, which is where the 9th District is education. This is the home of East Carolina University, formerly East Carolina Teachers College, and it's still one of the best places to come to learn how to be an educator. But no one wants to be an educator in North Carolina anymore because of how poorly we're treating our teachers. We're not investing in public education. Pure pupil spending is abysmal in North Carolina, and we are, over the past few years, completely abandoning our public schools in favor of a move towards trying to get kids to go to private school. My opponent, Representative Brian Brown, his primary accomplishment as a legislator was the sponsorship of the vouchers program, which of course is a program that takes money that could be used on public schools to send a select few students to private schools. And that's just wrong. It's wrong for North Carolina. It's wrong for Pitt County. Whenever I see public schools, I don't see something we need to save our kids from. I see something we can save them with. And it's something that we need to make sure we continue to invest in, because it's the program that works for everyone, not just a select few.
I think you're so right there. Now tell me, I think everybody at home wants to know, we here at the Fowler Show, we believe in informing, empowering, and help folks get their voice back. But what is it? What inspired you to put your name on the ballot? I think that's always the most profound question here. That people they never ask candidates that question, but they should. Well, I mean, what was it that why?
Well, the main reason that I felt like I needed to run is because we knew this was going to be a swing district. We knew we had a chance to win this seat. And I'm actually currently a student at East Carolina University. I'm a super senior. Nothing wrong with that. That's what I keep telling myself. And I'm about to graduate right after the election. And I know what it's like to come up through a school system where the reality is constant cuts. I'm a product of the public school system here in Pitt County. And one of my clearest memories of being a student at J.H. Rose High School here was at the end of the teacher asked us for our workbooks back. And these are the workbooks that we'd already done, because they couldn't afford new ones for the next round of students. Don't you think it might make it more difficult to learn the material, especially in the sections that I got wrong, which I won't say how many that was. And I've continued to fill the cuts as a student at East Carolina University. I'm probably the only candidate running anywhere across the state who has actually had a class canceled as a direct result of cuts in the General Assembly. And ironically enough, that class was state and local politics.
I think that's so profound. I mean, I really think that's profound, and I think, you know, the governor in North Carolina is definitely taking the state in the wrong direction, and voters are, you know, sort of pushing against that. Now, you are in a swing district. You do have a tough fight ahead of you. How can folks out there help?
If there's anyone out there who looks at this race as one they'd like to help with, of course, right now we're purchasing our advertisement for the end of the campaign, and early voting starts next week. So if anyone would like to help the campaign financially, you can do so by visiting uriahward.com/contribute. And if there's anyone out there who would just like to show support, then you can always go, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. On Facebook, it's Uriah Ward for NC House, and on Twitter, it's just @Uriah Ward. I was able to get those. There aren't very many Uriahs out there, so I was fortunate.
Now tell me, I think the other question that folks out there want, like, I mean, clearly we need some sort of change in the state capital of North Carolina. There's no question about that. I mean, what's different from you on day one than your opponent on day one? I mean, what happens when you get to the well of the state house? I mean, what's the difference?
Well, me versus my opponent, we have very different priorities in what we're trying to do for the state of North Carolina. Representative Brian Brown, who I'm running against, his focus from the very first second he stepped in the halls of Raleigh as an elected official, his focus has not been on Pitt County. And I'm not just saying this as someone who doesn't like him, as someone who's pretty far, who's on the opposite side and who is predisposed towards not thinking he's doing a very good job. Whenever I first announced that I was running, one of the first things I did was I called through all the local elected officials in the district, and I took a meeting with everyone that would have a meeting with me. And I talked to them about the issues facing the district, what they thought North Carolina needed, and not just Democrats, independents and Republicans as well. And they all had different perspectives on the issues facing our state, but they all had one thing in common. They all said that Representative Brian Brown would never get back in touch with them. And that's something that we've heard consistently. And that's been my experience personally as well. When I first met Representative Brown, it was on Election Day of 2012. He was there advocating for himself, and I was there advocating for his opponent. And we were there from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And that time we struck up a conversation. I talked to him about my thoughts, and he gave me his. We disagreed on everything, not angrily, but we did disagree. And in the course of the conversation, I realized that he had never once visited ECU's campus. And again, this is the university that's in this district, and he had never visited, which seemed odd to me. So I said, if you win, I want to help you set up a forum on ECU's campus, because I was president of the ECU College Democrats at that time. He agreed. He won. We contacted him to set up that forum, and he never responded. The next time he got into we had an interaction, was he got into an online argument with the Young Democrats of Pitt County, which I was the president of at that time. It was about the elections bill, which includes voter ID, which includes the elimination of one-stop early voting, and of course we were opposed to it, and he was for it. And he, in that argument, said he would be willing to meet with us, and he would even bring the person who wrote the bill. And of course we said yes, absolutely, we would love to. And he never once responded. We met with him one more time to try to get him to do the forum. He said, contact me. We did. Could never get anything out of him. And the next time I contacted him was to tell him that I'd be running against him. And this is something that we've heard constantly through everyone. Brian Brown is not focused on Pitt County. He does not represent the people in Pitt County. These are not the people he's going to for advice when it comes to questions that come up in the legislature. And that's going to be, I think, the key difference between me and him. Whenever a question comes up, I'm going to make sure I go back to Pitt County to seek for answers and advice. And
I think, honestly, that's a difference that America's looking for, right? They're looking for candidates that are going to represent their issues, not play. I don't think, and I got to tell you, I don't think the American families and working families are all Democrat or all Republican or fit neatly along the lines. But I think at the end of the day, they're looking for a candidate that can understand that it's about listening to the candidate's issue, which is why, we wish you all the best here. And I think that there's something powerful and remarkable what you said, this ideal of listening to candidates and listening to, the people and listening to the folks running for, listening to, your constituents. And I think that's just so important. Now tell me something, what's next? I mean, what's next? So you run for state rep, what happens next?
Well, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to serve the people in the North Carolina House. I know that anytime someone on the younger side of things runs for an office, there's always questions about do they have this grand plan for certain things they're going to run for in the future. And honestly, I don't believe that you can do a really good job in the seat that you're seeking if you only view it as a stepping stone. This is something I'm incredibly excited about. I'm always going to want to serve in some way or the other, and it all depends on what I'm able to do and what people want me to do. But in any case, I'm very much looking forward to serving.
And what is and I think this is another one for you. I know I'm giving you the hard questions. It's okay, life gets better. But what does progressivism mean to you?
Progressivism is I think a concept that a lot of people have different definitions for. But for me personally, North Carolina has always been seen as a progressive southern state. It's a state that works to make sure it is pro-business, but it also invests in its people. And I think that's something that we've lost in North Carolina. we're no longer investing in the things that people need to become successful themselves. And to me, that's, I guess, the core of what it means. And that's what I'm trying to do in North Carolina. We need to make sure that we're investing in our people and make sure that everyone has the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to make something amazing of themselves.
I got to tell you, I think that's so profound, and I think you're so right about that. So, listen, if we have just a couple seconds left in this interview, what is, if you had one last thing, closing arguments to voters out there and closing arguments to possible funders, if I got a couple seconds, what do you want to say to them?
What I would say is that, I was born and raised here in Pitt County. I really do love it here. I've been, working for it as much as I can for, as long as I've been able. And I'd be honored to have the opportunity to continue to serve you. And whatever the decision you decide to make, I'm going to do everything I can to work for you in Pitt County.
I couldn't have said it better. Uriah Ward. Check out his website, uriahward.com. We'll be right back on the Fowl Show after this break. Don't go anywhere.